between the Geneseo Blue Crew and Pep Band and the contingent that's traveled from Buffalo State that brought a drum of their own. So a pretty strong showing from Buff State. It's going to be a packed house here tonight, and this is the kind of energy you want in the building. Geneseo looking for their first SUNYAC title since 2006.
You mentioned that 3-2 overtime win for Geneseo last week. Like I said, really didn't play a heck of a really good game until about 10 minutes left in the third period. David Ripple and Justin Sharpie score goals, and then Stephen Collins buries it. And that was a game where Carr had 40 saves.
As we'll look through the lines for tonight, the Bengals will start with Mike Zanella, Taylor Price, and Dan Turgeon. Again, that is the line to watch. Jake Rosen will be between Brett Hope and Corey Gursky. Ryan Salkeld with Mac Balzan and Nick Burst. Billy Strakosh with Shane Avery and Kyle Whipple. On defense, Jason Cleaver with Ben Kramer. Charles LaPierre with Todd Graham. Nick Shiro with Clayton Lewis and Kevin Carr between the pipes. For the Ice Knights, it'll be Jack Zaglarski with David Ripple and Zachary Vitt. Tyler Brickler with Stevie Collins and Ryan Stanimir. Jonathan Soucis with Justin Sharpie and Connor Antoine. And the grind line of Carson Schell with Zach Martin and Gary Childeros. On defense, Derek Stahl with Jack Caradonna. Matthew Hutchinson with Nate Brown. Matt Solomon with Cam Hampson. Between the pipes will be Nick Horgan. And we talk about X factors for Geneseo. We look at Gary Childeros. On the other side, look at X factors for Buff State, who played well last weekend and maybe doesn't jump out on the sheet but was effective all night long. I looked at Mac Balzan. Mac Balzan was involved with everything and plays that grinded-out style that the Bengals embody. And he's the kind of guy that gets under your skin but also gets lost at times, and that could be someone for Geneseo to be looking over their shoulder for.
I was going to say Nick Burst, but I mean, those two guys play on the same line. So, I mean, that's a great point, and it kind of like they really do have four lines who grind it out. Fortunately for them, they have the top line is Zanella who scores, but they grind it out and they get goals from different places. Nick Burst scoring 2 goals in Brockport on Wednesday. So I think that's a great point. Those X factors, really, any of those guys can be X factors just because the bang it out grind style they play behind the net. I think an X factor for Geneseo is Nick Horgan. Just the way that he can handle the puck, like a third defenseman. I saw it 2 or 3 times last week in the Brockport game, the Fredonia game, where Geneseo was hurting. They were hurting real bad. Maybe 2.5 minute shift in their own zone. Nick Horgan comes out of the net, gets the puck behind the net, and feeds someone, in the neutral zone. So he's so good at clearing the puck by himself, just as long as he's not making mistakes. And it's ironic that the one game in the last 7-game stretch or so that he's been starting, he's been outstanding handling the puck. The one night he had trouble was against Buffalo State last weekend, so not that that's anything to read into too much, but you're right, it's absolutely one of the benefits of having him on the ice, something he brings that Brian Howdy doesn't bring to as much of an extent, and that's being able to be that third defenseman back there. And the Ice Knights, who are healthy really for the first time in 2 weeks now. We mentioned Carson Schell has returned, Connor Antoine's good to go. Tyler Brickler has been battling ailments for the majority of the last 2 months. He's healthy and ready to go, and for the Ice Knights, you couldn't wish for any better lineup than what you have right now going into tonight. Probably at about 80-85% capacity, still about 10 minutes from puck drop. This is going to be a packed house, even a packed house on the parent side as well. As we look down to ice level, I believe Nate Joseph, who is ringside with us tonight, he has assistant coach Chris Heers. Nate, go ahead. As we'll get back to Nate later on, apparently he has forgotten how to use that microphone. We'll hear from Coach Heers at some point later on. As for the Ice Knights, we look forward, and Jack Zaglarski, David Ripple, Zachary Vitt. Let's talk about David Ripple, because we were talking for a majority of the season how they needed a little bit more from him offensively, how he was having a little bit of trouble finding his way. The last 2 weeks, his job around the net front, that's where he comes up big, around the net front, and he's really come through for Geneseo. As now we have a bit of a last-second substitution plan. In the booth, we do have assistant coach David Ardoin. And Coach Ardoin in the booth. Coach, you're ready for the playoffs. You're as healthy as you've probably been all season over the last couple of months at least. And this has to be the lineup you're happy to go into tonight's game with.
Yeah, as coaching staff was just talking about, we can't really remember the last time we were, A, healthy going into playoffs, and B, kind of peaking at the right time. So really good week of practice, and we're looking forward to seeing what the guys can do on the ice tonight.
Any change in the game plan between tonight and last week?
No, the nice thing about when you finish in first place, it means the things you've been doing all year are working. and we just plan on doing the same game plan and turn out with a win tonight.
Thanks, Coach. Good luck tonight.
No problem. Thank you.
Ice Knights assistant coach David Ardoin as the Ice Knights and Bengals lining up for pregame introductions. It appears as though it will indeed be Jake Rosen, Brett Hope, and Corey Gursky starting for the Bengals here tonight. And for the Ice Knights, the interesting scenario is we talked about for Geneseo how there's 4 grind lines here for the Bengals essentially. There really aren't a whole lot of matchups you can really set yourself up for.
Yeah, I mean, I think the good thing is that each Geneseo line kind of has a bit of a grinder on it, with exceptions to maybe the Brickler line. But you look at the Riffle, you talked about the way that Riffle's played. A guy who's using his body, using his size, and he's done exactly that. He did it, I mean, in a huge spot last weekend against Buffalo State here. But, I mean, Geneseo has their grinders throughout the lineup. So I think they can play. We talked about it when Geneseo played Potsdam as well. They can play the same style as different teams, but better. And I think Geneseo can play that grinded out style like Buffalo State does, but I think they can do it better.
And you also know that the Ice Knights, can they play that grinded out style? Absolutely. They don't want to, because they can play the grinded out style just like Buffalo State can. Buffalo State can't play the run and gun offensive game, the speed game through the neutral zone that the Ice Knights can. And that's one of the things I think that got Geneseo into trouble last week, was they played 2 periods of grinded out style, and the second half of the third period, that's when they got the wheels going and they opened things up. As the Ice Knights, we mentioned Jake Rosen, Brett Hope, and Corey Gursky with Kramer and Cleaver will start for the Bengals. The Ice Knights will counter with Siglarski, Ripple, Vip, Caradonna, and Derek Stahl. And Horgan between the pipes for the Ice Knights. Horgan and Carr, you can't harp on enough. This has the makeup for a goaltending duel for tonight. What more could you ask for in front of a crowd of 100% capacity here at the IRS Wilson Arena? As we're moments away from the start, we're ready for the national anthems of Canada and the United States. We invite you to rise to your feet.